From Kansas State University, this is Agriculture Today. Eric Atkinson with you. Ahead today, the first two of this week's visits with county and district extension agricultural agents who are in town for the annual Research and Extension Conference here at K-State. From the Twin Creeks Extension District in northwest Kansas, Alyssa Rippe tells of a productive year for producers in her area. And Lyon County Extension agent Brian Rees will talk about the challenges producers in his county faced for most of this year from the extreme drought conditions. He'll be visiting with Sarah Moyer. Also today from the Grain Science and Industry Department at K-State, Gordon Smith will talk about the ever-growing career opportunities in the milling, baking, and feed sciences. And further ahead with Stop, Look, and Listen, K-State's Gus Vanderhoeven, here on Agriculture Today. Agricultural producers, landowners, and creditors, you have a partner in your legal and financial needs. Kansas Agricultural Mediation Services offers reliable, trusted information and guidance. Whether you need advice for ag credit concerns or are transitioning your operation to the next owner, Kansas Agricultural Mediation Services can assist you in making sound decisions for your business. To learn more, call 800-321-3276 or visit us online. You're tuned in to the K-State Radio Network and Agriculture Today. Glad to have you with us. Well, the county and district extension agricultural agents from all around the state have convened once again here in Manhattan for the annual Research and Extension Conference here at the university. And each year, we capitalize on the opportunity to visit with several of those agents about the fortunes of agriculture in their respective locations this past year, and ask them about unique and special programs on behalf of agriculture and producers that they may be conducting in their locales. We have one such agent, Mike's side today. She is from the Twin Creeks Extension District in northwest Kansas. That's made up of Norton, Sheridan, Decatur, and Graham counties. Alyssa Rippe is the livestock and farm management agent for that district. And Alyssa, many thanks for stepping aside from the conference activities. Good to have you here.
Yes, thank you.
You have been an agent in that area for a relatively short time, right?
Yeah, just about 2.5 years.
But you're a native of that area.
I am, yes. I'm from Decatur County. My family farms northeast of town there.
To explain to those who aren't fully familiar with the district concept, you do specialize in those two areas, right, as an agent?
Yep, correct. So all our programming is kind of divvied up into those areas. So I focus my programming efforts on livestock and then farm management stuff.
In the case of your livestock producers in northeast Kansas, at least rainfall was not much of an issue there this year, was it?
No, not at all. Actually, we did start out the spring being fairly dry, and we were getting a little concerned, but then we started getting a lot of rain, and the pastures have really boomed since then.
Now, cow-calf production is a staple there, is it not?
Yes, most definitely. Majority cow-calf producers, and then we do have some stocker operations.
Mm-hmm. And primarily cattle, maybe a sprinkling of other species, but that really would be the livestock enterprise choice in that area.
Yes, most definitely.
So, in addition to grazing resources being fairly healthy and ample, how have things gone otherwise for your cattle producers?
Good. I guess we've had probably some really good harvests, giving us some good cattle feed. Of course, we've had a little bit of trouble getting up hay in the last couple months because of all the rain. So that is going to be some concern looking forward, is making sure that we're taking forage samples and looking at the value and the nutrient quality of that hay, as it might not be as great as previous years since it probably did get rained on quite a lot while it was down.
Is there a worry about quantity of hay in your area at all?
Actually, not really. We have quite a lot of hay there. It's just looking at the quality of that hay, I think.
Mm-hmm. And the economics for your cattle producers are reasonably favorable at this point. Is that a fair description?
Yes, most definitely. Of course, most of our producers are also crops guys as well. So a positive on one side and a negative on the other.
Right. And to the crop production, again, rainfall was not a limiting factor in that area for the most part.
No.
But, in fact, it's become a burden, presumably the last week and a half or so.
Yes, most definitely. We do have a few guys kind of in our area that are trying to start some regular corn harvest. We've had a lot of wet corn go out earlier, of course, but the rainfall has pretty much stopped that in its tracks.
Heading into that time, though, those crops looked good, if not terrific, in the case of grain sorghum?
Most definitely, yeah. Our sorghum and our corn looks really, really good. We had rains at pretty much all times throughout the summer, and that really will make for a bumper crop, I imagine.
So here you are at conference in Manhattan, but if you cast a look over your shoulder, do you see that your producers might get back into the swing of harvest here relatively soon?
Hopefully, probably by the end of the week if we're lucky. We had, about 2 inches of rainfall at the end of last week there in Decatur County and 3 over toward Norton and Hoxie. So some definitely wet fields out there.
Again, the other hat you wear on top of being a livestock agent, that of a farm management agent. What does that entail as an agent in that district then?
Yeah, so for the most part, I work with people looking at making changes to leases, or maybe I'm looking at renting out ground. I do a lot of stuff like that. I've done a few things with the farm management agency or association out there. So Mark Wood and Jordan Steele and Ashley have all worked with me in a few different things. We did a FinPack workshop this last year. I'm helping a few producers in the area kind of look at what they can do on their operation as far as making changes to enterprises to kind of increase profitability.
Is profitability an issue out there right now, as it is in numerous other parts of Kansas?
Yes, most definitely. Yeah, just as you said, I think the whole of Kansas is looking at profitability issues.
What do you talk up most then when you work with producers? Cost management or some other facet?
Actually hit on cost management a lot, especially if I'm talking about cow-calf producers, which is largely what I deal with, making sure that your cow costs remain as low as possible, taking into account cow size and your resources and making sure that those match.
Is diversity of operation important in these times then?
Yes, most definitely. And for the most part, a lot of people in our area are very diverse. They have a crop and a livestock component to their operation.
So as you look into the late fall and winter now, where producers typically step back and assess where they've been and where they might be going, what do you see as the challenges ahead for your producers, management-wise?
Oh dear, that's a very good question. I guess I would really go back to making sure that you're managing costs, you're keeping track of records, and making sure you know where you're spending that money. Sometimes, as farmers, and my family farms, and I can completely attest to this, that records maybe are not at the forefront of our mind a lot of times, but it's very important in making sure you know what's going on so that you can look forward into the future, kind of take a hard look at what enterprises you guys are employing and what's really being profitable on your operation.
And you'd likely put a plug in for the analytical tools that K-State out of agricultural economics makes available.
Most definitely. So Ag Manager has so many awesome tools available. And if anybody ever needs help, they can come to their local extension office. And many of us are familiar with those things, have worked with them, and we would be more than happy to help anybody.
Well, Alyssa, we do want to give you a chance to talk about a specialty that you and your fellow agents in the Twin Creeks District carried out here this past year, a first time at this. It was a youth livestock series.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration here?
Yeah, so actually this kind of came from both myself and our 4-H agent, Patsy Maddie. We looked at some of the things that our kids were interested in, the projects that really were highly enrolled in this last year. And, of course, livestock always comes to the top of that list where we're from. So we put together a youth livestock series. So this encompassed kind of everything from selecting your animal to slaughter or processing there at the end. And we wanted to make it kind of industry related, not just 4-H project related. So we went to 4 different producers or businesses in the Twin Creeks District, kind of hitting each county. Graham wasn't with us at that time, so they just joined us in July. But before then, each of the counties in the district. And we visited with a local producer, a local professional, and then toured their operation and kind of heard from them as to the ins and outs of each topic. So we covered nutrition, health. We visited our local vet clinic there. The feedlot, actually, for our processing, we went and toured the Decatur beef feedlot out there. And then we also did selection there at a local producer's place.
Now, this was not restricted to only 4-H members. It was open to any youth interested,
right?
FFA otherwise.
Yes, exactly. Any kids who were interested. We ended up with 123 people coming to that, 123 youth plus quite a few parents. So we were really happy with the turnout.
Were you shooting for the older youth then? Because this was an educational component that got into some depth, it sounds.
Yes. Actually, we started shooting for the older youth, but of course they're really hard to track down in the school year. So we ended up getting a lot of younger kids and had to kind of change our plans accordingly, but it worked really well.
So the feedback you've received from the youngsters as well as the parents appears to be relatively positive.
Yes, very positive. Actually, I was just speaking with a mom of one of the kids who had come to all of the livestock series stops, and she was saying that they would really like to see an advanced session or something in the coming years. So hopefully we'll be able to do something like that to kind of accommodate our older kids and make that maybe a little more challenging.
And this is, and we noted it's a specialty program that you conducted this year, but it is somewhat unique. Not many of these sorts of things appear to be going on elsewhere.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty unique. We just kind of came up with the idea and ran with it. Hopefully more of those things will start taking place. We actually added 2 more agents in our district, and one of them is going to be a youth ag agent, and that's Jenny Martin. So we should be able to do many more of those things in the future.
Very good. Well, Alyssa, we wanted to conclude by garnering your thoughts on the state of agriculture looking forward. What does 2019 portend for your producers, do you think?
I certainly hope that we're going to continue to get some of this good rain and precipitation so that we can continue to have good yields to maybe offset some of that price that we're looking at as far as our crops. Livestock, I'm hoping, is going to continue to be what keeps a lot of our operations afloat and keeps them going. Again, I would just kind of tell producers or people who manage operations to keep track of those costs. Make sure that you're watching that because it's going to continue to be important in the next year.
All right. Alyssa, a good visit, and we appreciate you coming over from Extension Conference to share the story of what you and your colleagues have been up to, extension-wise, in that 4-county area that makes up the Twin Creeks District. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Eric.
She's Alyssa Rippe, and she is the Livestock and Farm Management Extension Agent in the Twin Creeks District in northwest Kansas. Once more, that's comprised of Norton, Sheridan, Decatur, and Graham counties. Alyssa is in town once more, attending the 2018 Annual Research and Extension Conference here at Kansas State University. As is our next guest, an agricultural agent from East Central Kansas. He'll join Sarah Moyer in a few moments here on Agriculture Today.
Agriculture and food systems are the main drivers of the Kansas economy, but must be improved in order to feed the world's growing population. How are we going to do so? Reduce food loss, find ways to preserve grasslands, and help families stretch their dollars. Global food systems is one of the 5 grand challenges K-State Research and Extension is addressing. To learn more, visit www.ksre.ksu.edu.
Welcome back to Agriculture Today. In town this week for the annual Extension Conference, several county agents are coming in and joining us. And up this time, we have Agriculture and Natural Resources agent from Lyon County, Brian Rees. Good to have you on, Brian.
Thank you, Sarah. Good to be here.
Let's start out with an overview for Lyon County. What's happening in crops and livestock, and what have been some current events in the area?
Like much of the state, we got to experience a lot of hot, dry weather this summer, and most recently we've had the pleasure of having between 9 and 16 inches of precipitation over the last couple of weeks, resulting in some flooding, resulting in some very saturated conditions, prolonging harvest, what is left. Corn harvest pretty much across the board was, I'd say that we're probably 75% done, maybe a little bit more than that. Very difficult for me to actually judge simply because so much of the corn was harvested, chopped for silage. Soybean harvest, we're probably in the 15 to 20% range, my guess, maybe a quarter done. And there were a number of acres of soybeans that guys were just ready to start with harvest. We'll see how things turn out if we're able to go ahead and get harvest equipment through the fields before the beans shatter and end up with a great deal of shattering loss going forward.
For livestock in Lyon County, you talked a little bit about corn silage being chopped. What other feed restrictions or trends have you seen in the past year?
Well, We do have a number of double stock cattle, short season cattle that come into Lyon County. Unfortunately, there were some of those animals that did actually end up shipping in June, mostly a month early, even for the short season cattle, either because of a lack of water or a challenge getting to water, sometimes for a lack of grass. A lot of the county had received a little bit of precipitation, so the grass was decent, but the water was not good. Of late, and we talked about this earlier, Lyon County was facing all levels of the drought monitor, from abnormally dry to exceptional drought. And even in the abnormally dry areas in the southern part of the county, we did receive precipitation throughout the summer, so we had decent grass, but we didn't have any runoff events. So the water was becoming a little bit more suspect as we progressed throughout the summer. Until early August, we did get a decent rain event that came through. And then, of course, here in early October, then we had some major runoff events.
Let's go ahead and talk about some of the programming that's been happening in your county throughout this past year as an update and a review. First, with crops, there have been some certifications going on for some of your producers. Would you talk about that with dicamba?
That's right. This last year, as many are aware, the label certifications required the producers had to be certified to utilize the approved dicamba products for in-crop applications on dicamba-tolerant soybeans. We were one of the sites that did go ahead and host a certification process. We had about 100 producers from around the area come in that actually did go ahead and get that certification. Some of the producers may not have gone ahead and used the application, may not have used the dicamba themselves. Many of the local producers contract or have custom applicators come in and do that. Some of the custom applicators, their suppliers were actually doing training for the employees as well. So there were many options for producers to become certified. We were fortunate that we were able to host one of those sites and get some of those guys certified to be able to utilize the products in a safe and effective manner.
You've also been working on farm financial management. That's been a theme this past year. And would you talk about how some changes over the past few years have led you to increase your programming and some of your expertise there?
It has been a learning process for not only myself, but many other ag agents across the state and the country for that matter. The farm financial situation is becoming much more stressed as we look at reduced commodity prices, potentially reduced yields. It's creating many strains. Looks like interest rates are on their way up and continuing to go up going forward. So the costs of the borrowed money are going to continue to increase. We need to get a pretty good handle on where we're at financially, what our profits are, what our potential profits might be, so that we're able to hopefully make a good plan to see if we're profitable in what we're doing and see if there are some ways that we can identify some new avenues that might be more profitable, or if we are doing some things that aren't profitable, we need to go ahead and cut them out of the operation. Even though they may be the fun things or the ones that we like to do, if they're costing us money, maybe we need to focus on the things that are making us money instead of the ones that are costing.
What type of resources have you encouraged producers to utilize as they focus on some of their financial management?
Well, obviously, we like to recommend ourselves, but there are a number of agents or farm financial analysts that have become very familiar with some of the FinPac financial analysis software that's put out by the University of Minnesota. A number of banks in the area that I'm familiar with are actually utilizing some of that software as well, not so much from a long-range planning aspect as much as going ahead and making a short-term cash flow and utilizing that side of that financial package. So it's a very robust tool to go ahead and utilize that has many things that can be beneficial for you. It's just a matter of how you go ahead and utilize it.
That, of course, applies to both crop and livestock producers, the full gamut there for producers in Lyon County, as that being a trend from the past few years. And as you suggested, it will continue to be relevant.
It very much will. And as you just said, Lyon County is a very diverse county, and that's one of the reasons that I feel that we've been a little bit more insulated in Lyon County from some of the stresses. Maybe the producers are a little bit more diversified. Maybe they are a little bit more conservative than some of the other parts of the state or the country in how aggressive they were in expansion or upgrading equipment or looking at changing their operation. If they were a little bit more conservative in some of the things that they did, hopefully they haven't stressed too much yet, but we are starting to see some of those situations where there's a pretty good amount of borrowed money on the line. Those interest expenses are starting to go up. The margins on those borrowed dollars are getting to be thinner.
Are there any other programming highlights that you'd like to share with us?
I would say that we do enjoy trying to help people learn about their range management situations. I know that we have talked a little bit over the past, and I know you've interviewed Casey Olson as far as some of the range management non-traditional burning season, what I like to refer to as the fall burning, late summer or fall, and utilizing that as a management tool, not only for sericea control, but brush control. And as an extension agent with some land of our own, I need to go ahead and experience that so that when somebody comes up to me and, I'm recommending that, they don't say, well, Brian, if you're recommending that, why haven't you tried that? So we actually did that a year ago, got along very, very well. This year we were met with some challenges trying to get the fire to go, just because of scheduling, because of the rainfall events. The times that we were able to try it, we had a little bit too much moisture in the soil and in the material at the surface that normally carries the fire. There were some times that I tried it in the evening after I'd get off work to get home, and by the time I'd get stuff gathered up, then we were starting to get a little bit more moisture from dew. So it would start, but then it would quickly diminish. So I still think there are some very, very beneficial aspects of the non-traditional burning, the fall burning, not only from the sericea and brush management, but also from a smoke management standpoint. Hopefully we can continue to encourage this to try and spread that out.
What other things are you looking forward to in the next coming months and the upcoming year?
Well, obviously we're looking at some cropping situations. One of the sessions coming up here at Annual Conference deals with industrial hemp. And that is a product that could have some benefit for producers in the state from a rotational standpoint, from a crop production standpoint, from a marketing standpoint. So I think that there could be some opportunities there. We've talked about cover crop utilization and grazing opportunities. I think that is something that we need to invest more time and energy into, and getting a better utilization out of those alternative forages, as many producers in Lyon County would like to refer to them, instead of cover crops. They serve the same purpose oftentimes, but it takes a little bit of a different avenue to be able to manage them appropriately as a cover crop as opposed to just strictly an alternative forage.
Well, good to have you on here in Manhattan for Annual Conference, Brian, and thanks for coming on and sharing some comments with us today.
Thank you very much, and I've enjoyed my time.
That once again was Agriculture and Natural Resources Agent from Lyon County, Brian Rees. He joins us here on Agriculture Today to talk about what's been going on in their area and what they're looking forward to here in the coming year. I'm Sarah Moyer, and we'll be back here on the K-State Radio Network.
What is radon? Home exposure to radon gas is the leading cause of lung cancer death in the United States for non-smokers. In Kansas, 1 in 4 homes will test at or above the EPA action level. The Surgeon General recommends all homes be tested and fixed if necessary. Visit kansasradonprogram.org for more information. Test, fix, save a life. This message brought to you by the Kansas Radon Program, the Kansas Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Welcome back. You're tuned to the K-State Radio Network. On this part of Agriculture Today, a quick overview of a renowned program within the College of Agriculture at K-State, and it is worldwide recognized as a center of excellence in grain science and industry. We're talking now with the head of the Department of Grain Science here at Kansas State University, Gordon Smith. Gordon, you always enjoy sharing the story of the department and its achievements. It would pay to remind listeners out there about the three basic programs around which the department revolves.
Yeah, thank you very much. We do have a long and global legacy of excellence within the department. The department primarily serves three industries, and that is bakery science. So we confer a degree in bakery science, we confer a degree in milling science, and those students go to be technical millers and flour mills. And then lastly, in feed science. And the feed scientists will run flour mills, work with nutrition, but more and more are also pet food targeted as opposed to production livestock.
And it's been said over the many years, does it still hold that K-State Grain Science and Industry is unique unto the world in these areas?
So we're the only program in the U.S. that focuses on grain science and the industry support that we do. There are some programs in China and perhaps in Europe that model some of the mission of the department, but not all of it. And I would say that, too, beyond the mission, the makeup of this department, which is a faculty with a large amount of industry experience, is unique to many academic pursuits. And so we value people who have actually taken their education and used it and come back and can help our students understand how what they do and what they learn kind of all fit together.
Student placement has been a hallmark of grain science and industry at K-State, again, for decades upon decades, and that strength has not waned whatsoever. There are exceptional career opportunities yet out there, aren't there?
There are, and they are actually getting more diverse. And so as the industries we support change, and as there is pressure on the traditional approaches and innovation, then the opportunities for our students goes beyond what it might have traditionally been. So my job may be to be a feed mill operator, to be the person responsible for the mill, or I may be responsible for a number of mills, or the feed safety in the mill, or technical sales, or a variety of other things. And so I think it's a great time to be in these majors as far as the opportunities, career opportunities these majors afford throughout a long career. You might start in one place and end up somewhere completely different. But the journey is actually much more diverse, I would say, than it was at one time.
It's a good problem to have, but K-State, as it churns out students from all of the three major disciplines, still can't fill the need out there in the industry, and would like to, of course.
Yeah, it's one of the criticisms of the department from the industry isn't about the quality of our students or the quality of our faculty. It's about our ability to support industries that need 2 or 3 times the students that we graduate. And so I hear that all the time. Unfortunately, we still seem to be one of the best-kept secrets. There are people that walk by Schellenberger Hall or go to football games and watch K-State play football with the 2 beautiful production facilities we have in the background, the flour mill and the feed mill, that have no idea what goes on there or what those majors might allow students to do.
So if we have parents out there or students potentially out there listening, what do they need to be attuned to in their academics and so forth to look into the opportunities in milling and baking and feed processing?
Yeah, in my mind, all 3 of these majors are the convergence of science, biology, chemistry, maybe a little bit of physics, and engineering. It's one thing to know the science, another thing to make products using that, and that's where the engineers, kind of play a part, and we have a strong engineering presence here. And then it's also overlap with the business. That if you're going to support the industry, then the business of the industry is as important as the technology and the science. And so we're trying to send students out into the world with awareness of how those strong technical skills and the practical experience they've gotten while they were on campus jives with the softer skills of what makes you successful as you interface with the business.
The opportunities abound, Potential students, parents can learn more at grains.ksu.edu. That's the website for the department. On the research side, once more, this department, Gordon, has been renowned time unending for its accomplishments in those three areas, and that strength has not let up either, has it?
No, interesting is, as we have retired some of the legends within the department, they've been replaced by young faculty from all over the world and from different universities who've brought new innovative approaches in many different areas, including one of our newest faculty is working on biocement, so making cement on Mars for colonization someday. And you go, just how interesting is that for a grain science department? It's really about bioproducts. And so that all the way to our traditional expertise in carbohydrate chemistry and stored grains. Again, very exciting that the old guard faculty continues to be productive and do world-class research, and the young faculty has brought a very new, exciting, kind of approach to our research efforts.
Since you brought it up, grain-based cement, is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, so the idea is using some kind of biological agent, which also can convert grain products. So the tie to the department is the organism that makes the change, but it can be used for, essentially in the presence of a few very simple things in a very hostile environment to actually make biocement. Yeah.
And those that you listed are just a mere sampling of the research agendas that the department has underway right now. So if we could go on and on about that.
We could. Yeah, very diverse research profile from the effects of feed processing on animal production, on pet food. How do I have a 16-year-old cat? How do I feed my 16-year-old cat in order to make her life as good as it possibly can be as she ages? How can she age gracefully? We have people working on this kind of things here.
And it's very easy for folks to find out more about the department and its research and teaching offering.
It is, and so the easiest way is probably to begin at the website, but we are happy to host parents, potential students, people in the community who are interested in learning more about what we do. So we are always glad to communicate one-on-one with people about what we do and how it really still is quite relevant to the future generations, not just the past.
That website, grains.k-state.edu. Check out what the Grain Science and Industry Department continues to offer in support of milling science, baking science, feed science. Gordon, many thanks to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the time.
He's Gordon Smith, the head of the Department of Grain Science and Industry at Kansas State University. And Agriculture Today will be back after these moments away. This is the K-State Radio Network.
Have you ever thought about where your food comes from? If you're thinking the grocery store, think again. Facts show that the American farmer feeds more than 129 people.
They are continually increasing and improving their operations. A wide variety of crops and livestock are grown in Kansas as well as the United States, providing food to your dinner plate.
Next time you see a farmer or rancher, thank them. For more information, contact K-State Research and Extension.
This is Agriculture Today. Stop, look, and listen. This is our state, Kansas.
I know it is a gamble. However, I feel I'm taking a calculated risk.
That's Gus Vanderhoeven of Kansas State University with comment on life in rural Kansas.
10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, and more dollars slipped between my fingers like water. I was no longer counting the buckets I filled with grass seed as I moved across the lawn around the house and overseeded the bare and thin spots. I know it is a gamble. However, I feel I'm taking a calculated risk at this time of the year. A week ago, I asked my friend Ward, what if I just sow grass seed on the bare and thin spots of my lawn? What chance do I have to get a stand? He looked at me before he answered. Actually, he didn't say anything, but just shook his head. That is a no-no. Of course, I know it is a no-no for success, but sometimes nature helps you and you make use of nature. For instance, we know that overseeding a lawn can be quite successful when you can catch a late snow in the spring and sow lawn seed on top of the snow. After the snow melts, it will pull the grass seed down, and with the moisture readily available and the weather warming up, seed will germinate, and voila, a green lawn. Of course, I'm talking about a cool season lawn here. I let the days go by and did nothing. However, when it kept on raining and my friend Christy told me she had already mowed her recently overseeded and renovated lawn, I got antsy. Of course, I must explain. Her husband runs the turf research plot and was a former golf course superintendent. She demands a perfect lawn with a beautiful garden, and by golly, she got it. Every time I step through the gate into their backyard, it's a splash of color around a perfect lawn. My lawn has never been perfect. It is simply the open space, the void in the landscape. However, I did have too many bare and thin spots, so much so that when I mowed the lawn or the grass in places, I mowed dust. Another reason to check the filter on my mower this winter. But remember, Ward shook his head. And I know the Extension turf publications all stress careful and thorough soil preparation is a must. They talk about taking soil samples and fertilizing, sowing rate, etc., etc. To give my idea another chance, I talked to one more friend, a turf researcher. I explained to him that I wanted to sow grass seed the lazy man's way. Not because I'm lazy, but simply the energy I had and at a time I don't have today anymore. To prepare the soil properly takes the right equipment. I wanted to do the simple trick, the snow trick. But instead of the snow, I wanted to use the present ample rainfall. The ground is saturated. And I reason sowing seed now on the soaked ground, with more rain coming, may just settle most of the seed to germinate. Then with a little bit help and some luck, it should get established and fill in nicely. I believe in my own reasoning, and with the present weather conditions, my friend agreed. He was the one who said, sow the seed like if you're feeding chickens. And that is what I did. And that is how the money slipped through my fingers, as grass seed is not cheap. At least, I don't think so. It reminded me when we sowed the brome on the 80 acres of good land, arable land on the farm. We had many 50-pound bags with seed, but near the end, Dean ran out and had to make a quick run to the co-op to buy more bags with seed. For the lawn, I simply used Kentucky 31, tall fescue, nothing special. I saved the tag. I read, the origin of the seed is in Kansas. That's good. Germination, 80%, which means 20% is wasted. Not so good. Purity of seed is 95%. For the extra 5%, it becomes interesting. Always read the tag. Other crops, seed, 2.2%. Some ryegrass in there. There's inert material, 95%. You can call that sweeping or dust. Actually harmless, but it's part of the 50-pound bag. You do pay for it. Add all that up, and that leaves 0.85%. And that is weed seed. Listed as hairy chess, dock, and buckhorn plantain. And there you have it. As you can see, I'm not a purist. The big 50-pound bag had sowing instructions printed on the bag. I used a method of spread like chicken feed, and it worked for me. Actually, I'm pretty good at that, as I do know and have spread crop seed by hand on small fields when I grow up. I can only sow with one hand. I've seen farmers use both hands as they go forward. It is an art. When we sowed the brown, we used, of course, tractor and pulled the seeder. Behind the seeder, you look for the tiny seed with all its promise. I remember going to the fields in the evening when the sun set low and kneeling and looking against the light to see the seeds germinate and come up as a fresh stubble on an unshaven chin. Today, we have good stands of brome making good hay. But last Wednesday, I sowed seed for the lawn. Just an open patch of good grass with some weeds mixed in. Like my mother used to say, if you mow it regularly, it will look like a lawn. A very wise woman.
Gus Vander Hoeven of Kansas State University with his weekly commentary on rural Kansas. That's our time for today. Thanks for tuning in. Eric Atkinson here for Agriculture Today over the K-State Radio Network.